We are past the eclipse season, and now what? All right, so we have this beautiful corridor from the moon eclipse, the lunar eclipse, the solar eclipse, and now what do we do with those energies? Because some of the things that were brought up to light, that may have been brought up to light for you, was really shining the light on where is it that I'm letting the not enoughness control me? Or am I getting impacted by other people, by other circumstances, and not being rooted, not being grounded in me? There's a whole video I made on this somewhere around here. And this is the invitation that as we became aware of all of that, right now we're going into the shifting. So typically they say not to, manifest, which is impossible during that time because you're manifesting all the time. It's like saying, stop breathing for 2 weeks. You can't, right? And so you were manifesting. But the thing is, when we have a lot of these blocks, we're just manifesting more of the same. So you may be desiring some things, you may be wanting some things. And there are two reasons why it's not manifesting. One, you're either too tunnel vision focused. This is the way that it has to come in through. And you're just so stuck on that outer thing because you're chasing after that illusion of stability versus surrendering to life and allowing life to surprise you. Which way will it deliver it to you? That's the deliciousness of it. Ooh, I can't wait to witness how this will show up. But when we're in lack, when we're in scarcity, it's like, no, I needed this exact way. And why isn't it being delivered? And then we're going into that downward spiral of disappointment, of not feeling held and supported by life. Not because it isn't doing that, not because life doesn't support you, because you're misinterpreting it, all right? And those are the blocks to clear. So some of these things may have been brought to light over the last 2 weeks. Moving forward with next, right? What is now? Because right now is your point of power, is we get to take action. We get to be really intentional with the life that we want to live. So you may have been aware of, okay, this is the pattern. Don't like this. Okay, getting caught up in other people, other circumstances, not standing in my power, not writing the room, just kind of reading the room, which is a lot better from numbness. This is what I tell my one-on-one clients, which is what we work through so diligently. And that's why they had these amazing breakthroughs in 3 months, because it comes from, you may be in this place of walls, right? It's like, I'm just protecting myself because nothing's safe. And opening up to that learning to feel. But then from that place, we can feel too much. It's like we're coming into and we're feeling the room. And that may be overwhelming. And again, I teach people how to move through this. And then we want to get to the place where we're writing the room, where you remember that you are the creator and you see those things in your outer reality. And it's so amazing. I just recently had a client say whoa, I just feel so held by life. And it's like, I can just surrender to it. It's like, yeah, that's normality. That's how life is supposed to be. You're not fighting your way through it. You're basking in that feeling of feeling held and supported and things working out for you. And how do we get to that? The way we get to this is overcoming the mind's addiction to suffering. Noticing how when things are going well, isn't it interesting how your mind doesn't want to stay there? How it needs to create a problem so it can be a savior? So breaking that addiction to suffering, which we all have, and, is that attachment. It's that identity. And so there's several ways in which we're doing this. And by the way, if you want, I'm doing a completely free workshop to support you in this. How do we break through that addiction to suffering? The link for that is down below in the description. Because you are here to have that limitless, infinite freedom, this enjoyment, this bliss. And the shift, the powerful shift happens when you move from this place of your default being the lack, the uncertainty, the, oh, what if, I hope, this just, right? When we say I hope, as in it's something outside of you, and shifting that to I decide, and then so it is. So when we're going from the lack, and then we have those empowering thoughts or those desires, and we're like, oh, no, we don't go there, right? We don't, no. The shift is when your default becomes the opposite. When you're living in the state of everlasting freedom, of bliss, of joy, and then those limiting thoughts come from your inner critic from time to time because it wants to spice things up. And as it does, you're like, oh, no, we don't go there. Because you're so rooted, you've practiced this thought pattern, this belief system of, I know what I'm creating. that there's no right or wrong, there's just the perfection of this moment. So moving through and rather like alchemizing that duality and coming into this place of unconditional alignment. And it's a beautiful place to be, because here's the thing, some people say, how there's this, right, okay, it's great, there's this vision. I was so confused by this teaching in regards to relationships, because like, okay, well, from the bird's eye view, from the divine, we're all one, there are no problems, right? I have no problems with this person, I can be with anyone. But then what about from the other level where I do have preferences? I want a person to show up this way or that way. I want, the kind of, let's say, partner who has these traits or these traits. Like I like these values or these things. How do those two merge? And it's the same with all aspects of our lives. It's like, okay, well, everything's working out for me. It's like, but is it here? But here it isn't. And we get confused in that because, again, the mind goes into addiction to suffering. Why isn't it working out for me, right? Why isn't it so simple? And it really is. It is that simple. And this is something that we're going to be diving into during the 4-day experience. It's 3 days, and there's going to be a bonus Q&A. And so, taking a deep inhale in, coming into your body, how good are you willing to feel right now? And this is really what the question is, because I did a meditation today. I hosted a meditation, and the thing that came up at the end was how it's a bird, and we need 2 wings of the bird to thrive. One being really comfortable with the discomfort. Because if you're trying to dodge negative emotions, negative, right? And they're not negative. It's like, oh my God, this is bringing me more to me. I get to alchemize it. I get to transmute it. When you know how to work with it, life just becomes so freaking amazing because you love whatever comes up. Whether it's your sadness, whether it's your grief, it's like, oh my God, yes, I get to build intimacy with myself, with life moving through me, through those emotions. And so you don't get dragged down by them. And it's actually this beautiful, blissful experience. So learning how you may be watching this, you're like, I'm not there at all. This is just for you to know that it's possible. It really, really is. And so getting to that point, this is one wing of the bird. And the second wing of the bird is actually getting really good in receptivity and enjoyment and bliss, because a lot of us go into, oh yeah, I totally want these things. No, we don't. How would you feel if you were living in this amazing mansion and, people that don't know you, maybe even your relatives, like, who are you to have that? Are you willing to be seen in your wealth, in your prosperity? And the truth is, most of us aren't. Go talk to someone right now who's telling you about how horrible their day is and how difficult their life is. And can you say, oh, my life's amazing? It's like, reach me up here. Most of us can't even do that in conversation. Imagine doing that when your physical life is so different and you're risking that rejection, you're risking that judgment. And a lot of us have that story of like, me thriving means me being judged, means me disconnecting from people I love because they don't see life this way. So I have to stay small as well. So as much as we say that we want that, most of us don't have the energetic capacity to receive it. And that's a muscle that needs to be trained. This is actually something that we're doing in Thrive. And this is something that we're going to be touching on in the 3 event that's happening at the end of April. So do check that out again. The link is below. How are you doing with those 2 wings? This is what is required for mastery. This is what's required for thriving. And when you open up to that, right, both the owning the shadows and not even seeing it's like, oh, shadows. It's like, oh my God, it's intimacy. Even like changing that word from shadow, it's intimacy and connection. And then basking in the goodness and the miracle that is life. Because as you do that, as you allow more in, not just with your words, oh yeah, I would like that. That's out of your integrity, because like I said, a lot of we say, I want that. We don't show up as that. How many of us are like, I want to be heard and seen in my relationships or in my career? It's like, do you do that for others? Or are you demanding for others to do that to you? So we're out of integrity here. We want something, but we're not living it. Same with our desires. Like, oh yeah, I totally want that, but we don't have and some are not willing to expand that capacity to work on that. And this is where there are 2 kinds of people. Those that are there saying, oh yeah, I wish for it, but they don't actually make any steps to it. It's like people say like, oh yeah, I totally want to work out. It's like, great. Are you willing to eat differently and, go to the gym? No. Right. And there's no judgment in that. Just noticing that's where you're at right now. I know that in some aspects of my life, I'm like, nope, I'm at that place. Like I'm getting comfortable with the idea that it would be nice, but it still feels really far-fetched and I'm just not there yet. There's no shame in that. But acknowledging and understanding where you're at. So there are some people that keep dreaming and they're not going to take the action yet. They're not ready. And then there are those that are like, I may not even know how to do it, but I'm ready. Like, let's do it. Let's move forward with it. I'm talking to the latter because that event, the 3-day event, is for you. The addiction to suffering doesn't have to keep going. It's something you learned. It's not something you were born with. And so I'm going to share with you the 3 secrets, how to move through that. And the 4th day, if you have any questions, the Q&A, how do we apply this to your own life? And there's also going to be an activation on the 4th day. So are you willing to move forward with this? Even if all around you is like, yeah, but no one lives like this. Are you willing to live like this? Are you willing to really allow the well-being into your life, the goodness, the bliss, seeing miracles in day-to-day moments? Because that takes building a partnership with your inner critic. That takes, like I said, mastery in the 2 wings of the bird. So if this is you, again, click down below. And a tangible, practical step, like I said, with what do we do now with the eclipse energies, is getting clear on what do you want to shift? What identity do you want to have? So many of us, this is the mistake that a lot of people make, and I see this over and over again in my practice, and I emphasize like, okay, I know that you've been taught that, don't do that, let's do the opposite, is with these like eclipse seasons or those full moon rituals, like, okay, let's let go. And I ask, great, what are you creating instead? And people just look at me, what do you mean? It's like, if you just let something go, you're not going to let it go because your mind doesn't know anything different. You don't give it new instructions. And what is it going to do? It's going to fill that empty space with what it already knows. So as things were brought to light the last 2 weeks, taking some time, maybe lighting a candle, maybe just having 5 minutes of silence before this, calming your mind, not from a should. Who should I be now? This is what's going to serve me on the mind level. But simply from the pleasure of being, the pleasure of expansion, the pleasure of life. If there was infinite money and infinite time, from that ease, what would you want to do? Who would you want to be? Who do you want to show up as? And that is my question to you. Who do you want to show up as? What is the new persona, new identity that feels more in coherence with your soul? Taking some time to really write that down and get curious. It's not an identity that you have to maintain. This is God Life Source Conscious moving through you. Are you willing to let it in? I thank you so much for being here. I thank you for wanting to do the work, getting curious about yourself, and aligning with a soul-led life. I'll see you in the next one.